In 1919, John Cantius Garand went to work for the Springfield Armory, and during that time, he began developing a semi-automatic service rifle. The semi-automatic service rifle designs that he was working on carried him all the way into the 1930s and led ultimately to the adoption of a rifle designated T1E2 until adoption when it was designated the M1 semi-automatic service rifle.
The M1 rifle that fought and won World War II was not the same M1 rifle that was adopted in 1936. Now, John C. Garand was brought into first the Bureau of Standards, and then eventually became an employee of the Springfield Armory. He was a civil servant. And John C. Garand started off with a primer actuated rifle that took special cartridges, but he was really trying to solve the problem of a full power cartridge working reliably in a semi-automatic service rifle. And he continued to work on his design, and eventually he got away from primer actuation and moved into gas operation.
This original gas operating system borrowed from what they called the bang system, a system that provided an expansion chamber at the end of the muzzle, a barrel that was not tapped with a gas port to bleed off the energy of expanding gases pushing the projectile out of the barrel. This gas system instead involved the bullet fully exiting the barrel into an expansion chamber. This expansion chamber then directed gas energy downward, manipulating a piston, throwing a piston rearward, which would then operate the operating handle, unlocking and moving the bolt backwards, after which spring tension would take over it and drive it back into battery. Now, this early gas operating system became nicknamed as the Gas Trap operating system, and the Gas Trap M1 Garand rifle was the rifle that went into production in 1936 and remained in production through late 1940.
The gas trap system was Garand's third or fourth attempt at finding a way to make a semi-automatic rifle work for the U.S. military. This rifle goes through competition with the likes of John Pedersen's semi-automatic, which is almost a toggle system, and as well as the Thompson semi-automatic rifle that General John Thompson of Tommy gun fame also developed. So we're looking at a gun that had stiff competition in the trials and evaluation period, which lasted 12, 15 years, and a gun that to this day is considered the mark of excellence, a foundation from which all other designs of that nature are based upon.
The M1 Garand rifle, what George Patton called the greatest battle implement ever devised, didn't start out that way. There were teething pains. There were things that needed to be done to the gun to make it function properly. This gun is a T3E2, a prototype in 276, and it has John Garand's gas trap.
The Gas Trap Garand is really considered to be the holy grail to Garand collectors. This was the original way that a Garand worked. It would trap the gas and then use that to move pistons and the operating rod to make the rifle work. The problem was that they fouled, they were difficult to clean, they were certainly not soldier-proof, and so it was decided we'll simplify this and simply drill another hole in the barrel 2 inches back from the muzzle and fit in simply a tapping system, a gas tap.
The gas trap is so rare is because there were only 50,000 of them made to begin with. And these were not guns that you could go out and purchase at a sporting goods store. Every gun was owned by the United States government, and it was in use with the servicemen of the time. And when the orders came down to change this, most of the guns that were out there were modified. So they were brought back in, they were converted over to the new system, and that old system went away just like that. And so there are very few guns that exist in their original configuration.
Perhaps surprisingly, some unmodified gas traps actually saw frontline service in World War II. There's a number of vintage photographs showing unaltered gas traps in a combat setting. So they were used, they did function well in spite of the perceived deficiency of the gas system. In fact, there's an interesting cablegram from General MacArthur just before the fall of Bataan praising how well the Garand rifles worked.
To a collector, you want to get the rifle that not only has this funny looking forend, but everything else in it matches up. And so all the different parts and pieces have to be commensurate with the time period that that rifle was actually made. Otherwise, someone could find a crate of gas traps and start sticking them on other rifles and selling them as gas trap Garands. But there's enough information out there now that a discerning collector will really know that it is a right-as-rain gun.
For an article American Rifleman did in 1994, I needed to run down a real .30 caliber gas trap. I found 2 of them in the collection of NRA President Alan Kors. It was like finding a breeding pair of unicorns. Anyhow, that's all the time that we have for this week. If you like the show and you're not an NRA member, you need to sign up right now. Go to AmericanRifleman.org. I'm Mark Keefe, and I'll see you next week right here on American Rifleman Television.